Okay, guys, we're here to talk a little bit about the halachos of Rosh Hashanah. Just to keep in mind, I've been speaking a little bit to my shir about this concept that a lot of things we do in Yiddishkeit, a lot of holidays that we've been celebrating our whole life, a lot of halachos which we kind of know about, we've been doing in a certain way, in a certain level. And it's important to, as we get older and mature, to try to up our game a little bit, okay? To try to mature in our understanding of Torah and mitzvahs and the chagim which we experience. A lot of times we have the ideas which we learned when we were little kids. We never really developed them anymore. So going into Rosh Hashanah, number one, the best way to do such a thing, to really experience on a higher level the chagim, is to learn the halachos. Also to learn the ideas behind it. But definitely to start with the halachos is the way to really tap into the chag itself and to understand it a little bit of a deeper way, in a more meaningful way. So Mr. Hashem, we're going to be zeicha to do that. So we'll start a little bit here. The whole Yom Iyun is going to be about deepening our appreciation for Rosh Hashanah, what it's about. A lot of times we do a lot of things, we don't even think about it, we don't even understand what we're doing, why we're doing it. So we'll talk a little bit from the halachic perspective, then for the rest of the day we'll get some more perspectives from different angles, maybe a little Hasidish, a little Kabbalistic. I don't know who's on the schedule today, Rav Dovber, things like that. But we're going to talk a little bit from the halachic perspective. Okay, so the number one thing that we'll start with, we're already in the days of Slichos. We're going to start this discussion with the halachas of Erev Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so I don't know if many of you are aware of this or not, but there is a pretty widespread custom in Klal Yisrael to fast on Erev Rosh Hashanah. Okay, and that's the first halacha you guys wanted here. But there is a halacha, it's brought down in the Shulchan Aruch. Many have the custom. It's not absolutely obligatory. It's not, it's not like fasting on Yom Kippur. But there is a very widespread custom to fast on Erev Rosh Hashanah. Now, because of the fact that nowadays we're a little bit weaker than we used to be, the poskim say, we're not as strong. I don't know if it means our muscles aren't as big, but we're not able to handle as much as they used to. So the more common custom on Erev Rosh Hashanah is that people fast from the morning until a little bit after Chatzos, to what's called Mincha Gedola. Then you daven Mincha, which is also another interesting idea. If you're fasting, you're specifically going to want to daven Mincha Gedola, which, anybody know what Mincha Gedola is? Mincha Gedola? No, it's actually the first Mincha. Okay, Mincha Gedola is the early Mincha. I'm not going to go into all the details of what that means right now, but the early Mincha, which is usually around a half an hour after Chatzos. So try it around 1 o'clock, something like that. You're going to have pretty much when we daven Mincha, the early Mincha which we have today. Okay, which we have in Yeshiva. So the early Mincha, there's a special inyan in general to do it on Erev Rosh Hashanah, specifically for those that are fasting, because the minhag is to break your fast after Mincha Gedola. Okay, so for those of you can handle it, because we are a little bit, you're ready for the challenge, it is an appropriate thing to do if you can, and this is part of the Darkei HaTshuva. Okay, and the truth is that it's brought down in the halacha. A lot of people already started fasting before. Most people don't do it nowadays, but it's brought down in the halacha that the ideas of the slichos always have 4 days going into Rosh Hashanah. Those are supposed to be 4 days of slichos. This year we had more. But it should end up to be, there should be to get to a certain amount of fast days that you can get up to by Yom Kippur. So most people are not necessarily doing that, but Erev Rosh Hashanah is still accepted. For those of you who can handle it, it's a good idea, if you can, to wake up in the morning early, do slichos, like you do slichos the night before, and then go right into the fast until Mincha Gedola. Okay, so that is now an interesting halach a lot of people forget about, is that if you do this fast, you should actually say the tefillah of Anenu. Familiar with the tefillah of Anenu? Anenu is the tefillah we add in on a fast day. So those of you that are fasting, Bezat Hashem, everybody can handle it. So you should be able to fast until Mincha Gedola. Then at Mincha, not at Shachos, but at Mincha, to say the tefillah of Anenu in your private Shemona Esrei. Yeah.
Is it preferable to start fasting, even though my family doesn't fast, to start fasting in Yeshiva?
Yes, it is preferable, but I'm happy you asked it. You should do it bli neder. Okay, anybody who's doing it, you should do it. You should decide I'm doing it without a neder, because you may get home, chas v'shalom, and be like, oh, I'm going to go back to what I used to do. Not that your family's wrong. I'm just saying, if you might want to feel like I don't want to continue this. So you should try to do it bli neder. But I definitely recommend doing it if it's something which is not going to throw you off too much. It's not going to ruin your Rosh Hashanah. You can handle it. So definitely a good idea. Yes, John.
Would you say Avinu Malkeinu?
No, we're not going to say Avinu Malkeinu. Then you do everything else is you just follow the regular mafsa. But you should just know for Anenu in Tfilas Mincha. Okay, so that's in terms of Mincha on Erev Yom Kippurim. Erev Yom Kippur there's also, Erev Rosh Hashanah. There's also a There's a custom to go to the basic faros. Okay, so if you have that custom, you could have the basic faros right here. But be careful if you go to Har Zaysim. For those of you who want to do that, that is a custom. Many have done that at home, maybe. That is a custom. Some people do, some people don't do it. But it's definitely against the idea of getting our minds into tshuva, thinking about what life is all about. So that is also Erev Rosh Hashanah. Another custom, Erev Rosh Hashanah, is to go to the mikvah. Okay? I don't know if you guys go to the mikvah every day. Rabbi Eid hasn't spoken to you enough yet, so you haven't been there every day or every week. So some people have a custom every day, some people have a custom every week. Some people go before Yom Tov, every week meaning before Shabbos. Even those people that are not makbid, they're not careful to go to the mikvah the whole year, daily or weekly, there is an added inyan, concept of doing it, Erev Rosh Hashanah. Erev Yom Kippur is even more so. It's even more so to go Erev Yom Kippur. So if you have to choose between Erev Rosh Hashanah and Erev Yom Kippur, I would definitely push it to Erev Yom Kippur if you're only going to handle it one time. But for those of you that could handle, you're looking for a little bit of an extra thing, a little bit feel a little extra kedusha, that is definitely brought down halacha, and it is recommended to go to the mikvah, even the old city mikvah, which is not exactly the cleanest. But if you want, you can come to. A lot of guys come to Shari Chesed where I live. It's a little bit expensive, but it's a nice mikvah. Rabbi Miller can help you out with a lot of other nice mikvahs if you want. And just get ready for tzvas now. Everyone's getting really involved in the mikvah. But anyway, there isn't any to Erev Rosh Hashanah. A lot of times you'll say, let me just chap a rain. Let me do it earlier, so before the rush. So that's a good thing to do, but it's brought down in the halacha, it's better to go not before an hour before chatzos. So if you're going to go to the mikvah, you want to do it within the hour before chatzos of Erev Rosh Hashanah, which again will be something around chatzos will be, 12:30, something like that. So you want to go within an hour before that. Okay, so that's in terms of Erev Rosh Hashanah, fasting, mincha. It's a good idea either way to have mincha and mincha gedola. Then for those of you that are looking to a little extra kedusha, that's definitely a concept to go to the mikvah Erev Rosh Hashanah. Okay, that takes us now into Leil Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so Leil Rosh Hashanah, make sure you're ready for Rosh Hashanah. You're all psyched. You're ready to focus and to daven well. We're going to start. You're probably not going to find any of the guys like to do early Shabbos or Yom Tov. It's more accepted to do Rosh Hashanah. I don't think it's going to be a shayla here in Yeshiva because they're going to daven at the right time. To daven Rosh Hashanah, davening on time, not early, the night of Rosh Hashanah. And, of course, to go in with the most kavanah that you can have. What's interesting is that people don't think about that, but the first mitzvah d'oraisa of the year that you have the opportunity to do is what? The first mitzvah d'oraisa is Kriyas Shema. Kriyas Shema is the first mitzvah d'oraisa of the new year. So you should have an extra kavanah and an extra focus for that mitzvah of Kriyas Shema when you're starting Mariv, b'chlal for Mariv, but to realize that be Mekayim, and generally you should have kavanah being Mekayim and mitzvah aseh. And as we'll see, the Leil Rosh Hashanah, b'chlal, everything that's going on in the beginning of the year is setting the tone for the year. Okay, whether the concept of Simon and Milsa, exactly how that works, that we have our signs, which we'll talk about, we eat certain foods which connote a certain concept or idea. So there's a concept that, and with certain halachos which govern what we eat, what we don't eat in Rosh Hashanah, because we're starting off the year in a certain way. So you want to start off the year of Rosh Hashanah with a mitzvah d'oraisa, that you're being mekayim, behidur rav, doing it properly to the sof, so you should have kavanah for mitzvah Kriyas Shema. Okay, so that the rest of the night, in terms of davening, should be pretty straightforward in the machzor. But what is important to know, that starting Leil Rosh Hashanah, from the night of Rosh Hashanah, already we have a lot of insertions in the tefillah. Okay, on Rosh Hashanah, on the Yom Tov itself, we don't have as much as we have during the Chol. But the major insertion, I guess everyone's probably familiar with, right? We switch Hakel HaKadosh to HaMelech HaKadosh. Throughout Aseres V'Tshuva, we're going to switch in the bracha of Hashiva Shavteinu. Instead of Hakel, we're going to say, instead of Melech HaYivstako Mishpat, we're going to be talking about HaMelech HaMishpat. So you should be very careful to make all the insertions in the tefillah. Starting from Leil Rosh Hashanah, not to skip it. On Rosh Hashanah, it's much easier, because you're davening from the machzor. So you're davening the whole Rosh Hashanah davening anyway, so you're more likely to just finish it properly. However, during the week, starting from Rosh Hashanah, but during the week, it's going to be a little bit harder, and a person should be very careful to pay attention, not to mix up the davings. Okay, so it's throughout the davings, you have a bunch of different, from the beginning of Shema Yisrael all the way till the end, they're going to be different Zacheinu L'chaim. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. Zacheinu L'chaim. Yeah, am I speaking Spanish? Everybody. We add certain things during Aseres Tshuva. Micha Moich Avarachamim. Blank stares. Yeah, you with me? Yes, okay, fine. So make sure you do that. Now, interesting halach. What happens, just mentioning this halach, what happens if you forget or you're not sure if you said these things during Aseret Semei Tshuva? So, most of them are not ma'akev, especially for the Ashkenazim. If you're Sephardi, it's your local rabbi. But the Sephardim have a little bit of maybe a little bit different, but for the Ashkenazim, almost none of them are going to be ma'akev b'di'evid if you miss them, except for Hakel HaKadosh. So if you said Hakel HaKadosh instead of Hamelech HaKadosh in the third bracha of Shemona Esrei, so it's ma'akev, that means you're not Yotzei, it holds you back, and you have to go and say Shemona Esrei again. Okay, what if you're not sure if you did it? So there's a general halacha, it's going to be coming up also by Mashiv Ruach, when we start that again. There's a general halacha that we assume that you're doing the way you've been conditioned. Right? That's why here in Aish we're trying to switch that. Right? You've been conditioned your whole life to think a certain way, we're trying to change that. But it's not so easy to change the conditioning. So we've been conditioned not to say certain things the whole year, so then also when they come to, I don't know if I said it, we have to assume that you said the way you've been conditioned. So if you don't remember that I say Hakel HaKadosh during Aseret Semei Tshuva, you do have to go back. However, on Rosh Hashanah itself, if for some reason you're not sure, you think you may have said Hakel HaKadosh, there, if you're not sure, you don't go back. Anybody know why? Why would it be Hakel HaKadosh? If you're not sure, we could assume that you did say it properly. No, it's not going to help the rest of the... I'm talking... No, you didn't. I'm saying the first, right on Rosh Hashanah itself. Leil Rosh Hashanah, you didn't say it 30 times. 90 times. You didn't say it 30 days. So the reason is because on Rosh Hashanah there's such a different davening, right? You're not doing your regular routine anyway. You're saying this whole different type of tefillah. So therefore on Rosh Hashanah, if you said everything correctly, right? You're saying this whole long tefillah, and then at the end you think you went back to Hakel HaKadosh. That's not the assumption that we're going to make. And therefore, on Rosh Hashanah itself, on the Yom Tov davening, you can assume that you did say it correctly. If you know for sure you didn't, then you have to go back. Okay? So that is in terms of the davening. So have in mind for Kriyat Shema, make sure from Leil Rosh Hashanah you're being careful to add in all of the insertions which we add for Aseret Semei Tshuva. Yes?
If you forget Hakel HaKadosh, you go back to the very beginning?
Yes. Yeah, very good question. If you forget Hakel HaKadosh, you go back to the beginning. Okay? And it's the only one that's going to be important for it, because the other ones you're not going to go back anyway. But it is an important halacha. Let's say this could happen. It wouldn't happen to anybody here, but it could happen. Let's say you forgot at the end of Shemona Esrei, right? So there we also add in an insertion. So let's say you remembered, not right away, you remembered, you kept continuing on in that bracha, and you remembered towards the end of the bracha. As long as you remembered before you finished the bracha and you said Baruch Atah Hashem, before you said the word Hashem at the end of the bracha, you can go back and fix it up. So even if you forgot it, right, at the end of that you forget, or B'Sefer Chai Baruch V'Shalom, you forgot to say that at the end. So it's okay if you forgot it. You're not going to go back to repeat Shemona Esrei, but if you remember before you got to the word Hashem in the bracha, Baruch Atah, and you remembered, you can go back and put it in and then finish up the bracha. Okay, after David, yeah?
Does it count as a bracha of the Torah if you have to go back? Or?
It's a good question. In that case, for sure not. If you remembered before Baruch Atah Hashem, you don't. It's definitely not a bracha of because you didn't do any bracha of That's why you go back, because you didn't ruin the bracha yet. In the case of Hakel HaKadosh, it's like somewhat of it's like a b'shogeg, I guess, type of bracha of But yeah, so try to be careful. It's okay. We won't whip you if you mix. Yeah. Okay, Jonathan, you asked a lot of good questions, but I need to finish. Yeah, quickly.
If you remember an insertion, you say Baruch Atah, you say it there, or do you go back to where it is?
Go back to where it was, and then finish. Okay, good. Right after davening, what do? The first time you see your friend, Leil Rosh Hashanah, what do you say to him? Shana Tova, up until now. And now you're in yeshiva, what are you going to say to him? Very good. L'shana Tova, tikaseh v'sichaseh, la'alter l'chaim tovim l'shalom. It's kedai to get that by heart. Shana Tova, tikaseh v'sichaseh. You should be written and signed for Shana Tova. La'alter, what does the alter mean? Anybody know? La'alter? Alter in Yiddish is old, but alter in Aramaic or in Hebrew is what? Immediately. Alter, right away. L'chaim tovim l'shalom. You should be signed and sealed for a good year. Okay, for those of you that are grunics out there, the Gra did not say that exact version. He has a different one. So if you're interested, you can see Rabbi Miller afterwards. But for the regular guys, if you want to say what most people say, you should say that nusach. Okay? Lashad, you can look it up. It'll be in your machzor. But if you want to sound really good and look good to your friends, you just whip it off, rattle it off by heart. Okay? Lashad Natov, Dekas V'Chasem, La'at Chaim Kol Sham. Like what you guys learning Gesher, right? Yeah. Okay? So that's what you want to do. Okay? So that is in terms of after davening. Then we go to the meal. You're going to see Mirza Hashem and Yeshiva. We're going to have the simanim, which we mentioned before. What are the simanim? The simanim are literally signs, but they're different foods that we're eating that conjure up a certain idea. There's either the name of the food represents the name, also has a connotation of bracha. Let's say we eat something called rubia. Rubia comes from the word laharbot, is to multiply, so it should be a fruitful year. Okay, so we have different things that you're eating. Exactly how that works is beyond the scope of this discussion. Why is that not a problem of something similar to avodah zarah, that we're giving powers to other things? Okay, that's not for discussion right now, but that is the halacha that is brought, that we do these things. So just a couple important things to know about that. Hopefully none of you would ever make a mistake in your life, but some of you may have, or other people may have, so it's good to know about it. The first bracha, traditionally, what's the first food that we add? What's the first thing we make for the Shana Tov? Besides the dipping the challah in the honey. Dipping the challah in the honey, okay, we make the bracha, but what's the first food that we add? Apple, okay? So traditionally you add the apple first. So a big mistake that could be made is that you make a bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam borei pri ha'etz, and then you say the Yehi Ratzon for eating the apple. Okay? Do not do that. That is a bracha l'vatala. Okay? Then you ruin the bracha, and that's bad. Okay? You're not allowed to be mafsek. You can't break between the bracha and eating the food. So what you should do is make the bracha, eat a piece of the apple, swallow it. Okay? Because it's important halacha to know, until you swallow the food, the chatchila, your bracha has not had anything to be chal on. It hasn't landed. Okay, so you have to first make the bracha, take a piece of the apple, swallow it, then say the Yehi Ratzon. There are some that say the Yehi Ratzon before the bracha, but definitely don't say the Yehi Ratzon between the bracha borei pri ha'etz and anything else, and eating. Nothing goes between the bracha and eating. Now, when you're making a borei pri ha'etz, you should have in mind all the fruits that you're going to be eating during that night. The truth is that anybody know a little bit of Hilchos Brachos? What other fruits are we going to be eating that night? A lot of people eat a tamar, or they'll eat a rimon. The tamar is a date. Rimon, you have pomegranates. Anybody know the halachos of brachos? If you have a pomegranate and you have an apple, on which one do you make the bracha? Pomegranate. Why is that? Because it's 7 species. So their post can talk about the fact that really we shouldn't make the bracha on the apple first. So either what you should do is actually make the bracha on the other one of the species, the one that comes first. Either if you have a tamar, that would most likely be coming first, depending on what else you have there. But tamar would be number 1. You make the borei pri ha'etz on that first, and then have the apple afterwards. A lot of people, this way I do it, I don't like, you don't want to switch with the way our parents did it, and it says in the machshir, do the apple first. So a good idea is to have the other fruits not on the table when you're making the bracha on the apple. This way, you have only apple here, so I'm going to make the bracha on the apple because I don't have a tamar in front of me. But in that case, you have to have in mind that when you make the bracha on the apple, it's covering anything else I'm going to eat that's ha'etz. Okay, so it's a little tricky to do that really properly. So the chatchila, if you have all the things in front of you, really you should make the bracha on the shivas aminim first. If you're able to have the shivas aminim off the table, then you make the bracha on the apple. Have that in mind. Okay, so anyway, that's in terms of the meaning of the rest of the foods that you're eating, the simanim. You can make the Yehi Ratzon before because you're not making any more brachas. Okay, there's an interesting shayla about what about making a borei pri ha'adama. On the other, some of them are 8, some of them are actually adama. So there's a question if you should make adama. The general custom is not to make a borei pri adama and anything else that we're eating there. If you want to get out of a suffix, you can go make adama. I don't know if we're looking for the machmirim right now, but generally speaking, we're not going to make a borei pri adama. We only make a borei pri ha'etz. If you're nervous about it, you could speak to your local Orthodox rabbi, and he'll tell you how to get out of the borei pri adama. Then you make all the Yehi Ratzon. Okay, that's the rest of the meal. What foods are we careful not to eat? Not just on Rosh Hashanah, but continuing after Rosh Hashanah, throughout this whole time period, is we don't eat nuts. Okay, so definitely on Rosh Hashanah itself, we're more machmir than nuts. The nuts, why is that? It's gematria chet. I know it's not exactly. Don't get Aaron started right now. Aaron will work out the gematria. It's off by 1. I know you love that. Okay, so there's an Indian not to eat nuts on Rosh Hashanah. There's an Indian not to eat spicy or sharp things or sour things. That's why you don't have the horseradish. Vinegary things, not too much to have. Okay, so those things we're staying away from. Anything spicy or sour, we want to stay away from during the whole. I think I'm running out of time soon. How much time do I have? 4 seconds?
How much do you have left?
I got like 8 simanim left. No, I'm just joking. However much you tell me.
I think another 7 minutes.
7 minutes. Okay, great. So that is in terms of Leil Rosh Hashanah. Some people have a nice minhag to read, to learn the Mishnayos of Rosh Hashanah. Great idea. Especially when I get into Mishnayos, it's only 4 prakim. I used to do with my friend Rabbi Goldich. Every meal I didn't eat with him every meal, but I ate with him one meal. Every meal he would do 1 parak. Okay, there are 4 meals Rosh Hashanah could do. The laws, the halachos of the Rosh Hashanah through the Mishnayos. So that's it. You need to do that. Get a good night's sleep after you eat a good meal. There is halacha Rosh Hashanah, we consider it to be like a yontif. It has the status of a yontif. And therefore you should eat a good meal. It should be geshmak. In yeshiva they have great food. So you should enjoy it, should have good meat, like a yontif, enjoy it, but not too much. And that's really the whole approach of Rosh Hashanah. And Yom Noraim is, especially the yontif of Rosh Hashanah, is, on the one hand, enjoying and simcha and connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through simcha. On the other hand, not overdoing it, okay? Realizing that it's a serious time and learning how to balance. That's really one of the main motifs, really, of all of Rosh Hashanah, is this balance between that Hashem loves us, but we're scared of Him, and we have to take it seriously. There's an interesting balance how to work that out. Not so easy, but that is the concept that we're trying to work on. So therefore, we have a good meal, but we're not going to overdo it. We're not going to be silly at the meal. It should be a little bit more of COVID relish, a little more of a serious approach to the meal. Don't overeat. If you have you had 3 desserts, don't take the 4th one. You don't need to shove it in. Okay, enjoy the meal, but don't overdo it. Sleep well, get up in the morning, go to the mikveh again, of course. There's some people are machmer not to, but there's an in to go to the mikveh if you want, even on Rosh Hashanah morning. Some people are machmer not to do that on Yontif. That's the difference. What about waking up? So there's interesting, guys, if you've ever heard of the concept of sleeping on Rosh Hashanah, right? Or not sleeping on Rosh Hashanah. So there's a big discussion about sleeping on Rosh Hashanah. What's interesting that people don't know is that most of the poskim say that it's more of a problem to sleep in the morning than it is in the afternoon, which means from the time of the crack of dawn, there's really an inyan to be up. Okay, so a lot of people are machmer. If you're a good morning person, it's a good thing to get up early in the morning of Rosh Hashanah and to be up at the crack of dawn, if you could. You don't have to do that. In the yeshivas, the minhag is not to do that. I spoke to my Rebbe, Rav Kirshenbaum. He said, no, we're not so makbid on that. The minhag in the yeshivas is to daven later. But there is, just to let you know, there is halacha, and a lot of people are machmir to get up early in the morning on Rosh Hashanah. And to be up. And even if it's at the expense that you're going to have to sleep later on in the day, if you could choose one or the other, there is a concept to be up early in the morning, to get to davening on time, of course, and to make sure that it is a good davening. Okay, everything else, I think you're just going to be able to go through the day. Follow the yellow brick road. Okay, you'll have a good davening in yeshiva. Make sure you have your machzor. Of course, you can have a machzor, but there's an extra emphasis on saying the tefillos properly and carefully on Rosh Hashanah. So you want to make sure that you're saying all the words, pronouncing them, you're enunciating them clearly, and you're able to say all the words properly. And even if you make a difference between a shva and a patach, a le or a la, Chazal and the Shulchan Aruch is makbid, is carefully. We want all of the words to sound proper, to come out properly, and therefore a person should try to enunciate as well as he can. Yeah. You could say things in English. The main tefillos you want to Shemona Esrei. This is a general question about davening, which there's a maker that you could daven in English, but definitely for someone at your level, and probably most of the guys that could read Hebrew, I would definitely recommend, at least for the Shemona Esrei and all that stuff, saying it properly. I would recommend going through it before. There are other things you want to say. There's certain, small different things that it's easier for you in English. So that's less of an issue. But definitely the main tefillos of Shemona Esrei you should say in English. Now, what about the feeling during davening? So there's a very interesting discussion. The Arizal said, it's brought down from Chaim Vital, his main disciple, and others that bring down the Arizal, that a person should be crying on Rosh Hashanah. And they should either be naturally crying or try to make themselves cry. It's brought down from the Vilna Gaon that he said on Rosh Hashanah specifically, Yom Kippur specifically on Rosh Hashanah, dafka person should not cry. Okay, and there are those that try to make shalom. They try to reconcile the Arizal and the Gra. So according to the Arizal, I'm not going to be machriya right now. According to the Arizal, there is an idea to be in that state. According to the Gra, we're not going out of our way to do it. If it has, so a lot of people say if it just happens naturally, so then everybody agrees it's okay, even the Gra. But there's a question about whether you'll hear a lot of people crying. That's okay. If you feel like you want to do that, that's a good thing. Some say if the crying is coming from an emotional experience that you're connecting to Kadosh Baruch Hu, so that's a good thing according to everybody. That might be a way to resolve it, but that's just in terms of the davening. And then after davening, you should be spending the day eating, like we said before, enjoying the yontif, but at the same time keeping it serious. You don't want to waste time. We said there's a big discussion about sleeping. So a lot of people say you can't sleep, you shouldn't sleep. At the end of the day, if you can get away with not sleeping and using your time usefully, then you should do that. If you're exhausted, especially if you woke up by Los Hashachar, but if you're exhausted after the meal and you just can't function, you can't do anything, so then most of the poskim say it's fine, just take a nap and do it that way. But that person should try on Rosh Hashanah to spend his time as usefully as possible. It means try not to be hanging out and schmoozing about Chas v'shalom nobody ever speaks Lashon Hara. But you don't want to be hanging around speaking things that are usher, even just idle talk. You want to be focused. If you can learn, great. If you can say Tehillim, a lot of people have a minhag to say Tehillim. Say Tehillim on Rosh Hashanah, a person should be thinking about the seriousness of the day. Be besimcha, enjoy the meal, enjoy the davening, feel close to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, cry if it makes you good, if it makes you happy, ironically. But just thinking about it, and the whole day should be focused as much as possible. And the last thing I want to leave off with is to be extra careful. Like we said, we start the davening. You want to make sure you're doing your first mitzvah right, Kriyas Shema. You want to make sure the simanim, we're starting off the year on the right foot. That means the stage that we're setting right now is going to set us up for the whole year, and therefore it's extra important not to get angry on Rosh Hashanah, and bechlal for a person to work on his midos. Person should be in a state where they are calm, they're collected, they're focused, they're not doing things that they don't want to understand. Nobody likes getting angry. Nobody likes being frustrated. Nobody likes being... A person should go into Rosh Hashanah, don't let anything bother you. And unfortunately, the Yetzer Hara likes to do it. I heard from a Rebbe ever used to say, the Yetzer Hara will try to get you annoyed and upset. And you might say, I can't imagine this, but if the food isn't so good Rosh Hashanah, that doesn't happen here. Or whatever is going to happen to your roommate, just let it go. Rosh Hashanah, you're feeling good, you're focused on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're excited to be close, you're working on your midos, and that will set the tone, Mitzvah Hashem, for the whole year. So we can start off, we can finish off last year, all the klalos that happened last year, whatever klalos we had, and we start a new year with the bracha, and we set our tone with our mitzvahs, our focus, and our midos. Everybody should be zeichet to have a shana tova, ksiva ksima tova.